Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Tamika. I am one of your match representatives for 2024 with Janelle. I'm so excited for you all to be here. This is our last event as match reps for 2024. Woo, woo, woo. Oh, look, she's been out here in these streets living her best life. Okay. But today this is just a simple post-match discussion. We have some IMGs, FMIG, and American students that are going to tell you how they went about going into the process for match. Excuse me, their highs and their lows. They'll be here to answer any questions that you have about this process. We're not going to go into a lot of detail, but we'll give you enough information to get you started, and we are always going to be a resource for you as you go through this Match 2025 cycle and the whole process of becoming a family medicine doctor and choosing your residency. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. We will get to them as we go throughout this discussion. But without further delay, I am going to let the panel introduce themselves with their name, where they went to school, and where did they match. Um, who wants to go first? All of you all are looking at me, except one. So
Everyone,
who wants to go first?
go first. Hi
All right.
everyone. Good night. My name is Dr. Rochelle Ann Benjamin. I guess I'm a doctor now. I'm a first generation American. My family is from Jamaican and Guyanese descent. I went to Ross University School of Medicine. Why I'm blanking out. It's a Caribbean-based US school, and I matched into Morehouse Family Medicine residency.
All right, so I guess
All
I'll go
right,
next.
don't be shy, Brad. Wait, no, Brad. Brad's trying to be a gentleman. Let the ladies go first. Don't do him like that. Come on, ladies. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi guys, good evening. My name is Carissa Carroll. I attended or graduated from University of Illinois College of Medicine in Peoria, and I matched at Indiana University at their Ball Memorial Hospital in Muncie, Indiana.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Christy Crumblin. I am a graduate of American University of Integrative Sciences. I matched at UAB internal medicine in Montgomery.
All right, good night, everyone. I'm Brad. So I went to University of the West Indies. So I'm a non-US IMG. I'm from Trinidad, and I matched into the primary care track at University of Miami Internal Medicine.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I did not know Rochelle and I are going to walk across the stage together in like 9 days and some hours and minutes. Woo, congratulations. Congratulations to all of you doctors. Yes, please get used to saying doctor, because guess what? You have arrived. So I don't know who wants to start us off, but what is one thing that you think the fourth years need to be aware of as ERAS is getting ready to open next year? Like, how do you think they need to prepare? Like the mindset, what's one thing that you feel like, you wish you had have known before you got close to ERAS opening in September and in July, and then submitting in September? Along those lines, what are some things you think you wish you had?
So I would say there's like a few things. One thing that's the most important that you guys should know is failures in the past do not define your success for the future. So for instance, I'm a person that failed my first semester. I was very, very down. I passed my other semesters going forward, and I actually spoke about that during my interview process. I spoke about how I learned from my mistakes, how I, recovered from that, and kind of the development throughout my ways, and how that kind of pushed me a little bit further into medicine and pushed me further as a student. And they love that. don't be afraid to show who you are during your interview process. Stay true to yourself and stick true to your answers to the questions that they may ask. Another thing that I can say is adhere to the timeline. Make sure you look at the match timeline. Make sure you have the CVs done. Make sure that everything is done before ahead of time. So from now, when you're at this part, think about what makes you stand out compared to others. Think about your story. What made you choose medicine? What made you go down this path? What stories or adjectives or anything that you had that kind of fostered your you wanted to become a physician even more. So that's my take.
Yeah, I completely agree. Two things that I agree with Dr. Benjamin about is that you have to understand how you want to present yourself to programs. And I say that because you only have 10 experiences and you have our research, whatever, but those 10 experiences need to tell the story that you want to tell. Don't just put random experiences or leadership or whatever it is, clubs or volunteer that just looks good, because if it's discombobulated, like it doesn't align with your personal statement, it just doesn't look good. Like programs need to feel that, like for me, I'm very big on maternal health. I'm going to eventually be an FMOB. So all of my activities and my personal statement and my recommendations, they kind of centered around that desire of my career and who I was and why I chose that. So that's something definitely to realize. And take a little time to reflect now, because once you start step 2, you start, personal statements and everything, it gets way too overwhelming if you're still in rotations, because you still have a couple of rotations in 4th year. It just gets too much. So just take this time, you have a little downtime to do that. And then number 2, like a logistics thing. If you have years, if you can, I didn't know this, but you can rearrange your schedule in 4th year. I don't know, maybe for different schools, different ways, I don't know. But if you're able to rearrange your schedule and you have extra off time, take off time around when ERAS goes out, like maybe the week before and the week after, and then take time out for like interview season. Just go ahead and be like, oh, most interviews happen in like November, December, most of them. Some happen in October, but the real big brunt you probably schedule in November, December. If you can take some time off in those like blocks to just like kind of knock things out and not be worried about rotations and your application and interviews, I would do that. I had classmates who did that, and I was so stressed out, and they just looked like they were just cruising. And I was like, what did I do wrong? And then they explained to me like, oh, I rearranged my schedule to look like this. And so those are my 2 things I wish I would have known before I ERAS.
So just to piggyback on what everyone has been saying so far, I would say, especially to piggyback off of what Rochelle was saying, I would say, one, your failures don't define you. Your red flags, so to speak, don't define you either. I would say what you should do is be aware of them, and as best as possible, be upfront with them in your application. At least that would be my advice. I had failures, I had red flags, I had gap years, I had all of those things, and they were addressed in my personal statement. I even asked one of my mentors who wrote one of my letters to also address it in the letter as well. So during my interviews, no one asked about it because it was already addressed. So I'd say if you do have red flags, so to speak, I'd say don't let them be a hindrance, don't be scared of them, rather just address them up front as best as possible. And I'd say don't let it be a hindrance, don't let it define you.
Another recommendation I would say is to download the Matcher Prism app. It's found in your app store, in Androids, etc. And it kind of gives you a timeline of the list of when everything is due, when, ERAS opens up, when certain things are due. And on top of that, you can kind of add your interview schedules onto that. And then once you're done with your interviews, you can mark them. You can, give how many stars for instance, cleanliness of the hospital, how, the fellow alumni is at, how do, I'm like blanking out, sorry guys, I had a long day, but how, your colleagues act, just, it kind of stars everything out for you. So by the time it was for me to put in my match process and my match timeline and everything, I already knew what I wanted because I already scheduled everything in. I already, put 4s for this, 5s for this. It already kind of ranked everything in my sense for me already. So the match or prison match, I would say to get that as soon as you start the ERAS cycle.
That's great, because my next question was going to be, what other apps do you think were helpful throughout the ERAS process? And nobody told me anything about a Match Prism. Could you put it in the chat, the name of it, please? And did anybody else, because colleagues on the panel are looking like, say, what now?
No, it was
what is the app called?
It's called like Match or Prison. Actually, like I didn't even have to think about how I was gonna like rank my rank list. Everything was already done for me.
Anybody else got some gems for apps that they wish they had to use or that they did use during this process that they want to add?
I can also say the Residency Explorer was amazing. So Residency Explorer is connected to the ERAS site. So as soon as it's the same password, same username. So on the Residency Explorer, you can kind of add things like, okay, I'm a USIMG, I'm a non-USIMG, how many publications you have, how likely is it for you to get into this program with this specialty, how likely is it to get into the program with this GPA or with this, oh my gosh, why am I blanking out so much? I'm so sorry, guys. With this step 1 or step 2 score, it kind of just puts out the logistics for you. But regardless, even though it might say that you have a low chance of getting in, you just never know your odds. So if it's like a program that you're very, very interested in, I still say apply to it. Yeah.
I would say Match or Resident also works pretty well for that. It's a paid service as opposed to free, but I would say if money's less of an issue, I'd say it hasn't been a bad tool. I used it. I think it was also relatively useful as well.
Okay, thank you. Residency Explorer. Man, I feel like I missed out on things, but it's okay.
Also, Match or Resident, if you do your CV, your personal statement, they will read it for you. But of course, it's a paid program. I know there's other programs as well with students from differing specialties that they're willing to, if you pay them, of course, that they're willing to read over and edit your personal statements as well.
Remember, we're all students in some shape, form, or fashion. So we have to make that extra money whenever we can. And you would rather, help a colleague with some extra funds than someone who's already making the big bucks. I'm just saying, but I could be wrong. All right. So ERAS is open and for sure you want to do family medicine. Did any of you all go to any conferences? Do you feel like you networked prior to ERAS opening up and programs were anticipating your application? Anyone wants to speak to that? Wait, pause. Let's go back. Christy, Dr. Crumbling, you're our IM person, which is similar to family medicine in some aspects. You just see adults. What's one thing that you feel like really helped you with your ERAS and this whole process?
My application was pretty non-traditional. A lot of my tenacity came from having a gap year. And then also one of the things that helped is that I actually gotten my license in Missouri. So I was practicing in Missouri. So that was a strong suit as well. Family was my first choice, but I was, of course, pretty okay with internal medicine as well. So that's kind of why I'm in the group now. But for the most part, I think some of the volunteer work and also the license in Missouri, those things helped with my application.
Okay, Missouri doc. How did you get to be a doc in Missouri already? Do I need to move? Well, tell us the process.
Well,
quick
actually, so I'm sure you're familiar with the assistant physician license, right? Mm-hmm. And how it's just kind of like residency in that you're working under a collaborator, just the same as you see with these as well. We had some people to come through that actually had done a year in residency already, and they compared it to the intern year. In fact, they said some of the things we did at the urgent care clinic, which is where I was a lot more than what you do in your intern year. So it gave me great experience. Yeah.
Hmm.
And gave me a heads up on having my MPI number and things like that. So,
So I
which
need
is
to
something
find
I,
an assistant program. Oh, okay.
yeah. But now I wasn't gonna chime in yet. I was actually kind of waiting to see if we had anyone that was, not an MS3 or 4 that actually had a gap year, because I think that's where my experience is better served.
I'll talk to you, Christy. We'll work this out. I promise. All
Huh.
right. So back to my original thought process. Conferences and things of that nature. How do you think that kind of helped you with ERAS and preparation and different things of that nature?
Conferences are a must. When I say they're a must, they're a must. You get to network like nobody's business. It's so amazing. One thing that I can say that, kind of made me stand out ahead of others was that I made my own business card. Like I made my business card with my face on it, put my ERAS number on it, my NRMP number. On the back of it was my LinkedIn, URL page. You can just take a picture of it and then go to there. And then I had like a matching pen with my my professional picture on it, and it was different. It made me stand out ahead of others. And programs that I was interested in or, never heard of before, at least I went up and had a conversation. You start to have that conversation and it fosters a lot of things with people and they start to remember you. Have a conversation. You don't even have to talk about medicine. You could be like, I love your hair. You look so beautiful. I love your suit. Where did you get it? Start something small and then build it. Be like, I wanted to do family medicine because it's my passion. I want to do this. This is what I want to do within society. This is how I want to make a difference, and give like, okay, you want to go to Georgia? Okay, I want to go to Georgia because my family lives there. Just give your all into that and go to different workshops. Workshops were so amazing. I went to AAFP, amazing. I had the opportunity to network with alumni. I had the opportunity to network with residents and attendings, and they actually asked me out. Like, if they are interested in you, one thing I can say is that they'll tell you to go to an event that they're doing, go to a hosted event, make sure you see them, make sure you talk to them, make sure, like I said, give them your business card, get their information. Write down, tell them how excited you are about it. And then one thing that you can do after is like a week or 2 weeks after seeing them at the conference, send them an email. Say, it was great to see you. I'm very interested in the program. When ERAS opens up, I'm definitely going to apply to your program. Best thing ever.
I pretty much second everything Rochelle says. That's exactly what I did. The AFP National Conference in Kansas, I would say that's actually a really good opportunity. You go there, you network. I would say you're gonna get some level of interviews from that conference if you attend. Once you go, you present yourself well, you'll get interviews from it. Just make sure you keep in contact with them after the actual conference has ended, send your emails. It definitely works. I actually had like 6 interviews from that conference. It does work. Don't sleep on it.
Yeah, I second it. And kind of going AFP, with kind of knowing what programs you want to speak to, because there's so many programs. There's like, I think every single family medicine program in the United States, for the most part, is there. It's too many to talk to. Like, you just can't. Like, I advise you, for me, like I said, I was interested in FMOB, so I only talk to like really heavy FMOB programs. So you were interested in sports medicine, I go to programs that have a really good sports medicine or a fellowship. That's another thing. Like for me, I chose programs either OB heavy or had an OB fellowship attached to it. So same thing with sports medicine or addiction medicine or whatever other medicine, especially you want to do or not do. Kind of use those programs as like a tactile point. Like, oh, I'm gonna go visit that program because they have X, Y, and Z. And then ask the program, like, hey, I really like your program. What other programs kind of have the same vibe as you? And I asked that to some programs, and they literally walked me over because they're all friends. I promise. They all know each other. They're all friends. And she like walked me over. Said, oh yeah, this is the program. Like, we're just like them essentially. And had conversations. And so just kind of make sure you kind of have that like ready, because AFP, you will get overwhelmed because there's so much going on at AFP. Such good information, but it can be overwhelming.
So to kind of add to what Dr. Carroll said, she's completely correct. It can be very, very overwhelming. It's very, very large. You know, people are juggling or doing different things. I remember I saw like a dog in a car. Like there's so much going on. It's very, very overwhelming, but just pace yourself. I think there's like 3 or 4 days of the conference. Just make sure you go to the programs that you're very, very much interested in. Look on it based on location, look on it based of specialty and fellowships, etc. And then you go from there. If you do have time, of course, you can go to other different programs and look them out. Another tip that I have for you guys that someone actually told me, if you're applying for 2 different specialties, make sure you don't apply to the same program because oftentimes they might know each other. So at the time I was thinking of psychiatry or family medicine. I did go to the psychiatry AAP, forgot how it's called, but I went to the psychiatry conference and I met some of the Morehouse people and it was really amazing. I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of applying to family. Like, definitely do not apply to both programs because the program directors, they talk. So just be careful, you know, weigh your options out, see what matters to you more, and then go from there.
And I know we're talking about this national conference a lot. National conference starts August the 1st through August the 3rd. It's always in Kansas City, Missouri. And they also offer a scholarship of $600 to applicants, students, and to come to the conference. So if funds are tight, go ahead and apply. Because I want to say, ooh, did the deadline pass? Was it May 1st? I'm not sure. Go to the website, wfp.org. It is free for students to join and get access. And if they have not already closed application, go ahead and get your application in and become one of those recipients for $600 towards your trip to national conference. Very, very important.
Also, there's another,
So,
sorry.
go ahead.
Also, there's another conference that I also went to. It's called the Family Medicine Educational Consultorium. It's for residencies that are in the Northeast. So if you're interested in residencies up there, make sure you do that. And as well, sometimes they do have scholarships where they can fit the whole bill of the conference. And on top of that, they pay for your hotel room. But keep in mind, when you do, they do pay for your hotel room. You have to share a room with someone. So make sure you know the person or, you know, you're comfortable with that. But that's another possibility of a conference.
Dr. Cooper and I did that last year. She was my roommate at the consortium we're in Rhode Island.
Yes, Rhode Island.
Rhode Island. So,
So
and
cool.
I really went just to support her because she was looking at programs in the Northeast. She knows that's not my cup of tea, but I also got to run into a colleague that I had not seen in forever. So it's always good to network and you just never know where you might end up. Dr. Carroll talks about wanting to do OB. Dr. Benjamin talks about psych. Family medicine allows you to do a plethora of things. It's so broad. How, for those of you that may not know what you are wanting to go into, how would you say you networked or what did you use to help you kind of narrow down what you were interested in and how that might help you choose which residency programs to look into? Because some programs are more heavy in certain things than others. Some have rural programs, some have global health programs. Addiction medicine has been talked about. Some are EM heavy. So there's a lot of things. How did you all kind of narrow down the list?
For me, I kind of love everything. I love psych, I love OB, I love urgent, I loved everything. Family was everything for me. So general practice was mostly what I looked towards. What helped me was pretty much the what's it called? The Residency Explorer. I use that. It kind of on that, it actually you're able to see like fellowships, you're able to see subspecialties, and you can kind of go from there to decide on what you like the best. So that's what I did. I used Residency Explorer. And then kind of in my mindset, even before I even decide on, you know, whether I was all over, you know, I didn't know if I wanted to do psychiatry, I didn't know if I wanted to do OB, I didn't know if what I wanted to do family. But my mindset was that I want to do something where I can see myself being happy and doing it every single day. And where, you know, I'm not going to feel burnt out or unhappy later on in my future, you know, and I played into that I also wanted to have a family, I wanted to have kids, etc. So you kind of have to look at not just the short term, but on the long term on what you want as well.
Yeah, I agree. For me, the decision came throughout my rotations. So thankfully my medicine program here, like they have an inpatient service. They run the inpatient service, they run the OB service, and then they have a clinic. So I was at first I didn't know before my rotation, I didn't know family could do all of that. And so I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. And then I was like, my next rotation that I kind of solidified the OB part, I actually did OB-GYN. And for a split second, the 2 weeks of labor and delivery we did, I was like, man, maybe I want to do OB-GYN. And then I did GYN. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the GYN part. The GYN surgery, I was like, that's just, yeah. So really use experiences in your rotations and kind of what Dr. Benjamin says, like, I know I left off a 12, 14, 16-hour shift on L&D, whether it be in family medicine service or the OB service. And I was like, yo, let's go. Let's deliver one more baby before I leave. Like I felt that. And even days where I came in, I was tired. Like by midday, I was like, oh, I'm so tired, but I can keep going. And it sounds so cliche. People used to tell me that, like beginning of my third year. And I was like, that's just some BS. That's just, you know, I was like, ain't no way. But it's real. Like there was some service where I was there for like 4 hours and I was like, oh my gosh, let me go. Just, I will take whatever grade you give me. Just let me out this, whatever we were at. So keep that in mind. And then once you find out what you are kind of like looking for, number one, Google is a great, Google Residency Explorer, AFP has like different, what is it they have? Like SIG groups, not SIG groups, but what is it like? I'm blanking. But they have like different groups that kind of group people, different FM providers who have those interests. It's like an FM OB group, it's an FM like sports med group, it's the FM like addiction medicine. So kind of start exploring those also on the website. And then also your mentors, for me, my faculty there kind of helped me decide what programs I wanted. So the faculty I applied to essentially, if I like the faculty, if I like their training, if I like their knowledge, I applied to their program. I mean, we had a conversation about like, did you like your program? Let's be honest. Like, let's be real. And they're like, yeah, love my program, like da. So I applied to their program, but then also double take, I asked them for a letter of recommendation. Because what they love the most in the interview season, they see alumni's name cross their board, and they're like, wait, is that actually Dr. So-and-so who class 2020 whatever or 19 whatever? And I was like, actually it is. She's a professor, and they just love talking about that. And so keep that in mind. So, figure out what you really like throughout your experiences. Google AFP, ask your mentors and your attendings and rotations. And then also make sure you get letters from those people.
That's a big thing for me was also location, because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to be there for minimum of 3 years. So I'd say location is a big thing you should also consider, and it actually should be relatively high on your list because you want to actually be somewhere where you enjoy living. I would say another thing, if you are a non-US IMG, one thing you should consider is that not all programs are going to sponsor visas. So that's one thing you also have to take into strong consideration. Not all programs are going to sponsor visas. There's actually a small percentage of programs that actually do sponsor visas. So out of the 700 plus odd programs, maybe like 200 or 300 might sponsor visas. So like you would have to choose from a more limited pool. So that also have to be something you take into consideration in terms of like filtering. If you don't, because if you apply to a program that doesn't sponsor visas and you need one, there's no dice. There's not really much you can really do. So I'd say that's a big thing to consider.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Cooper. You gonna chime in? Go ahead, cool.
Yeah, so I just wanted to interject, Tamika. I know we're kind of giving off a lot of information, and for me, it can get a little overwhelming, especially being here in the process before everything opens up. So what I kind of used as my like guiding source was the AFP. So I signed up as a member. When I went to the conference, they have this resource book that's like a digital guide that lists out wherever you are in your medical school journey. It'll say like, if you're a third year, focus on this. If you're a fourth year, focus on that. If you're looking for programs, focus on this. So that book is free. So even if you don't go to the conference, if you sign up as a member on the website, you can download the book and you can kind of use that to navigate, which stage you are in the process. Just make sure that you're covering all your bases and you're making sure that you keep everything that you need to keep at the forefront so you don't fall behind or feel overwhelmed, because it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Thank you so much for that information. And I'm going to take a moment because I've done a lot of question talking and a lot of asking questions. Anyone that is on the Zoom, you have a question? Do you have a thought? Anything that you came on here, you were hoping that may get answered and we may have not gotten to it yet. I just don't want to keep firing off questions and someone else has a desire to ask questions. You can put it in the chat. You can come off mic. We are very like my bad. That feedback kind of got us listening. Woo. Okay, seeing no hands. I'm gonna keep this party rolling because I know we all have lives to do. Some of us are still trying to graduate. Some of the fourth years, you still have tests to study for, shelves to do, electives to go to in the morning. Okay, so we talked about resources, we talked about ERAS, we've talked about programs. Just overall in this process, if your school is not supportive or if your school is supportive, tell the people the highs and lows of how that works as well. I'm going to start with Dr. Melville on this one, and then I want Dr. Crumblin to chime in just because she also has that gap year, and so she can definitely share the highs and lows of supportive schools during this process versus non-supportive people.
So for me, I would say it was pretty difficult because with my school, there is no real support whatsoever because our school is Caribbean school, but it's not a Caribbean American school. It's pretty much just a regular Caribbean school with the intent of training doctors to stay in the Caribbean. So there's no step resources, there's no type of guidance. I pretty much had to rely on people who have done the process before, and of course the internet, Reddit. I pretty much had to kind of like get all my information from outside resources. Like our school just did not have those particular things in place. But the benefit of that is that sometimes because you have to get information on your own, you actually a little bit more meticulous in the information that you get and how you go about getting that information. So I'd say if you do have a school that's not supportive, that just means you have a little bit more time to invest in terms of asking people about the process, sitting on doing your own personal reading. But even if support is not there, then the resources to actually get the information is there. So I think that was pretty much my experience. And of course, the lows when you have schools that aren't oriented, doing things like uploading the MSPE and that sort of stuff tend to be a pretty difficult process because it's not something they may be exactly familiar with because not a significant portion of their students are actually doing these things. So that just means you also have to be aware of how that process goes, even from the university end, so you could actually chime in and give them a little bit of guidance on how to do it as well. So again, just a little bit more research you'd have to do on your end, but it's still feasible.
All right, from my experience, I agree with everything that Brad said, and I think he spoke very well about schools that are not supportive. From my experience, my school was pretty supportive. They actually saw it as a reflection of them. We didn't have the highest match rate, so anytime there was an opportunity to help students match them, they were pretty on board. So they were very supportive. I don't know if I answered the question in its entirety. Tanika?
You said your school was supportive.
Brad said
even
yes,
even in the process of your gap year, do you feel like they were supportive when you needed to go back and ask them for information in order to apply for this upcoming cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. They have a system in place where you submit all of your information. They actually kind of had like a almost like a survey, and you would fill that out for your MRCP for the dean's letter. And then they give it back to you and they ask you for any updates since you graduated. They would include that in your MRCP. So yeah. So I would say they had a pretty good system and they were supportive.
Sorry.
That's great. I don't know if all schools do that. We're gonna find out about Ross momentarily. Perfect. We did not plan on this. However, we're going to do it just because Dr. Cooper and I have that control. We're gonna ask some private personal questions. So we're going to end the recording in about 5 minutes. But before we do that, I want each one of you to share something that has kept you going through this process, because applying to medical school, not medical school, applying to residency can be difficult. The whole process is difficult. So what is something that kept you going through that? And before you answer that question, real quick, there's a comment that says, we talked about addressing failures and lows in interviews, but should it be included in the personal statement? Yes, most of the time people do include it in their personal statement. Some people tell you not to. However, it kind of fluctuates. I know I heard that throughout the process, whether you should include it or not include it, but you definitely have to bring it up, because if you don't bring it up, then sometimes they feel like you're hiding it. But I'm gonna let the panelists answer that question for you. Go ahead, take it away.
Can I say something on it? Like, so really quickly, they're going to see your transcript anyway. And if you don't address it, you're going to leave them to make their own conclusion about it. So kind of like the thing that we used to, in our group, we used to tell all students is touch it and go, don't lay on it. Take that and turn it into a positive. Talk about how you overcame it. And that's kind of almost like a cliche, but it's really true. So definitely don't leave it unaddressed, but you don't have to lay on the horn with it.
To add on to what Christy said, I completely agree. As a person that did fail first semester, I didn't include it in my personal statement, but I did include it during my ERAS portions of questions. And I kind of just talked about how I overcame that and, how that led me to the person that I am today. So it is important, like she said, to include it within the information portion, but you don't have to include it in your personal statement, because sometimes it will be asked. And if it's asked and you don't have it there, they're going to think that you're hiding something. So it's better to just deal with it up front.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It should be in your application, in my opinion, at least in some way or form, whether it's in the personal statement, whether it's in the application itself. I think you should address it because they're going to see it, whether you have things like transcript, whether it's the low step scores, failures, etc. Whatever it is a gap year, they are going to see it. They are going to take notice. So you should upfront, at least at some level, explain to them why that you think that happened to you, how you improved, how it affected you, and you should include it in some way or form.
Okay, we have another question in the chat. How do you decide what stories to share? I know earlier we kind of mentioned things that kind of focus on what you want to do and they don't make you seem too discombobulated, but how would you go about adding those things into your personal statement and in those 10 experiences that we are able to use in ERAS? How would you decide which ones to pick? Dr. Benjamin?
I would say you pretty much just have to come up with a theme. Like, what do you see yourself doing within medicine? Me, I want to make a difference for individuals of diverse cultures. I want to help minorities. I want to do this and do that, and just talk about some disparities that I saw. So within my personal statement, I'll just share with you guys. The first thing I talked about was, as a child, I had like a cyst behind my ear and I had to get surgery. And the resident, she was amazing. Even as a little child, she discussed with me, in layman's terms about the procedure. She was the first person I looked at and I was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to become a physician. Even though others might have told me that, choose something else, choose a different specialty, do nursing, do something else. That's what pushed me and kept me forward. And then, as I went through, I spoke about some of the disparities within healthcare that I saw, for individuals that were minorities, how, I was very interested in psychiatry and how oftentimes for Black, brown individuals, we think that speaking about mental health, we're looked down upon. So I spoke about that. I spoke about the difference of when my attending actually spoke to that patient, cared about her, and how that patient eventually opened up. So just find a central theme and then you kind of go from there. And if you just stay true to who you are, they're going to love it.
I agree.
Anybody else?
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Like you said, when it comes to starting your personal statement, like say, know your theme, know how you want to present yourself to programs. And you have to kind of, fortunately, it's not a lot of space. It shouldn't be that long. And you have to kind of hit everything. So you kind of have to hit like why medicine, like what, like, you know, like why medicine, like what kind of starts you on this path. You got to talk a little bit about school. You got to talk a little bit about if you have any of those like red flags in that time, it's kind of go ahead, sprinkle it early, and then move on. Like you said, like other comments said, move on, just hit it, you know, at that point, and then go into why you chose the specialty. That's also make sure you really got to hit like A, what you want your career to look like, and B, why you choose the specialty. Because like I said, they've seen so many different applications. They can tell if you're just like, this is just a backup. They can tell. I don't actually, I've had heard program directors, mine included, being like, oh, this person, we can tell when somebody just doesn't like this specialty. They're just doing it because they applied, blah, 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 blah. So make sure that you hit those points and hit them strong, so you have a good sound personal statement, and then wrap it up like, what do you see I think the last good paragraph is, or 2 paragraphs is like what you want your career to look like, and then what you can bring to the program. Sell yourself. Like, be like, hey, you know, I think for me, my tenacity, my determination, my desire for to help Black maternal health, my desire to outreach, I put that, I will be a great, kind of sell yourself in that last paragraph to kind of really hit home, like, you know, I'm great. You should, you know, interview me. So just keep that in mind.
Also, to kind of add to what Dr. Carroll said, subspecialties, like I know she's doing maternal fetal medicine. I was like, I'm interested in OB, psychiatry, family. Be aware that they will ask you questions like, why didn't you choose OB? Why didn't you do psychiatry? And just be honest. I was very honest, and I was like, if I did OB, I'm the person that would give 110%, I would burn out. Family is everything and more to me. I'm able to do OB related things. I'm able to use peds. I'm able to do psychiatry based things. I'm able to do everything and more for this population set, for individuals within minorities. Make sure you hit back home to what you were speaking about in your personal statement. So just be aware they will ask you those questions, but this is why I want to do this for this.
All right, those are some great answers and responses. I hope those questions answer, both those responses answer your questions, Phoebe, and I am not gonna butcher Nakawano. So sorry for butchering your name. I hope that answers your questions and concerns. I'm going to stop the recording. We thank everybody for listening. Please reach out to our panelists in the respective groups if you want to get more information from them.